and welcome to All the Things. I am Monique Duson.
And I'm Krista Bontrager, and this is the show
where we talk about all the things related to God, the Bible, and real life.
And neither one of us is feeling very well right now.
Hey, but that's okay. We are here. We showed up.
We showed up.
And we just might show out. Don't play no games.
It's a big night.
Saturday.
We are live.
Yes.
You're here in the studio with me.
I am. I am back from my travels.
Been a minute.
I'm on a world tour with my mic in my hand. You know who is that by?
It's another song.
Never mind. Never mind.
I have no idea.
Never mind. It's okay, though. It's okay. I have been to South Africa. I've been to Uganda. Oh, we did a show about it already. We already did that show. Y'all, it's a struggle today. The struggle bus is long. So today's show is brought to you by the Center for Biblical Unity.
Theology Mom Podcast.
Family 210 Clothing.
Impact 360 and our friends at Birmingham Theological Seminary. Want to give a shout out to our moderators, Elaine Voss and Laura Hartley.
Thank you guys so much.
Helping us in the chat. If you want to interact with us tonight, which many of you I know will, if you're watching the live stream, always best to head over to YouTube. Easier to get the interactions there and the comments. And trying not to see Abby on the stairs. And so go over to YouTube and look for the All the Things Show channel. Make sure that you are subscribed to receive our newsletter. So if you're ever wondering, like, are they going to have a show this week? We have a show 3 times a month. Gives us 1 week off a month for travel or family or whatever. We try to do 2 live shows a month and 1 pre-record show. Helps facilitate travel. But you can always know what we're up to by subscribing to the newsletter. Just go to allthethingshow.com and subscribe there. And then you'll get that little inbox on Fridays to let you know what's happening on the show.
Yes. Now, we did not have a show last week.
No, because we were in
Buffalo, New York
Woo-hoo!
For the Unshaken Conference with Elisa Childers, Frank Turek, and Natasha Crane. It was an awesome turnout.
Yeah, so we had a little table at the Unshaken Conference. And when we go on the road, we have kind of our standard little setup that I'm hoping is going to pop up here on the screen in a moment. There it is. And there's Monique talking to somebody. I try not to take pictures of people on camera because, we don't have their consent to show them in public. But this is what our...
You stop by my booth, you're going to be consent. That is consent. You consent to shenanigans when you with me.
Yeah, so here's our little booth. We had a lot of stickers this time. I've been increasing our sticker inventory, and almost all of them were gone. But another cool thing was that they had Walking in Unity on sale in the bookstore. They brought, I think, 1 box, and they basically sold out by lunchtime.
Yeah, it was so cool.
So we got to sign some books.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a great time. And then on Sunday, that was Saturday. On Sunday, we went to Niagara Falls.
We did. And there's some pictures if people want to see that over at Theology Mom on Facebook. We also saw our friend Natasha Crane there. We took a quick selfie with her. And she's one of the speakers. And she's an endorser.
She's a speaker. Yeah.
So she's one of the lead conference speakers. So that was fun. We loved Buffalo. We loved going to Niagara. We went to the Canadian side to see Niagara.
We went to both sides.
We did.
Yeah. We had tea in Niagara on the lake.
It's a quaint little British town.
It is.
In Canada.
I was quite surprised. But it was a good time. I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. Jermaine said that he is hello from South Carolina now. I don't know why you're in South Carolina because I normally see him in Atlanta.
Oh.
But I'm not trying to be all up in his business. I'm just saying it threw me off today. Candy is here and says... changes in my schedule, but I've still been listening. Yay! Because I haven't seen Candy's name in a while. Okay, you ready to get started?
Yeah. Another thing, I just feel like we have so much going on right now. It just kind of is all happening at the same time.
So that's a no. We're not ready to get started.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, I'm just making
more
sure.
Stuff coming.
I didn't know.
Yeah. So we've got the book coming out October 15th.
We do.
So it's not too late to pre-order. I don't know where to look. You can still pre-order and we get the benefit.
Yeah, can we talk about pre-orders?
Yeah, let's do it.
So pre-orders really help our publisher, Harvest House, and Amazon Amazon's not a publisher, but they do hold the book and sell the book. It helps them to know that people are actually interested in reading this book. And then that increases the possibility of us being able to write another book. And so if you have not pre-ordered yet, please go and pre-order it for a friend. We are looking to have about 1,000 pre-orders before.
That's our goal.
That's our goal.
We only have a couple weeks left to meet that goal.
Harvest House is very confident that we are going to meet that goal. I'm like, Father, touch it, Jesus. You just do your thing. But yes, we have a big goal before us to really get our pre-sales out there. The conversation of race and unity in the church is still a big conversation, and it's also tied to many other things that we would definitely like to talk about and write about in forthcoming books. So your pre-orders definitely help us to reach that goal.
Another benefit, and I want to encourage everyone to go to walkinginunity.com. That's a great place to pre-order. You can pre-order on Amazon. Those go toward our overall sales numbers, as well as Christian book distributors. I think if you order through CBD, Christian book distributors, people are already getting their books.
Yeah.
So even if you're pre-ordering, you might get the book before everyone else.
Many people I've seen post that they ordered through Christian book, and they've already received it.
Yeah, and those orders do credit toward our 1,000 goal. But another thing that pre-ordering does is in the algorithm on Amazon, one of the marketing gals at Harvest House was telling me last weekend that the more that there's pre-orders, the algorithms will push it out as a suggested sale. Mm-hmm. So if people are ordering Melissa Doherty's book, it might suggest Walking in Unity as a pre-sale item. And that helps push it out to people that maybe haven't heard of the ministry. So that's another benefit of pre-ordering. Thinking about,
what was that?
I don't know what that was. He says, just keep going.
Just comment on every little thing.
Sorry.
We're like, what is that?
We don't know what it is.
Okay, keep going.
But we're encouraging people to think about ordering 3 copies, one for themselves, one for their pastor or someone on their pastoral leadership team, and one for their church library.
No, don't be sad that you ordered on Amazon. Amazon is the key place that gives us the stats that Harvest House is looking at.
Yeah.
So don't be sad ordering.
That's
request that people order on Amazon, but I know that people really want it in their hands today.
And CBD only just started adding their numbers to our tracking maybe 2 weeks ago. So this whole time, the numbers that I get every week are really just from Amazon.
Yeah.
So, okay. Another thing that's coming, in addition to the book, is our discussion videos.
Yes.
We haven't really talked about them very much.
We have not. We at the end of last year, well, gosh, what is this, 24? So at the end of 22, we fundraised through Giving Tuesday, and we should talk about Giving Tuesday next week.
Okay.
But we fundraised to be able to create discussion videos that would coincide with the book. And so we flew people in and flew people to LA and had discussion groups around each chapter of the book. The discussion videos I don't even have words for them. They are so good. There's so much good content in there. We had Lisa Spencer, Pastor Alton Hardy, Kevin Briggins. Who else do we have? Joe Miller. Han Cho. There were so many people.
Sorry, Han.
There were so many good people and good thoughts that were collected there. Kathy Lou and Novella and Kat
Allison.
And Manny and Allison. There were just a lot of good content. Priya was there. And so are we going to actually show?
Yeah, we're going to show a little clip here from the roundtable discussion. So how these work, while Bob's getting that set up, is we have a 15-minute video that's aligned to each chapter in the book. So as you are working your way through the book and discussing the book with your small group, your high school worldview class, your homeschool co-op worldview class, however you want to share the book with people in your life. These videos are designed to help spark some discussion and engagement. You're going to watch our panelists wrestle with some of the big questions of the chapter. And then there are discussion questions at the end of each chapter for you to process together as a group. So we've kind of built a mini curriculum into the book, and we're going to have the discussion videos that will be available October 15th, the same day that the book drops. So we asked Bob to select a clip that he's been hard at work on these videos for months in editing. And it has been a huge job, probably 1,000 hours of labor. I don't know. It's a lot of labor, at least hundreds.
I was going to say 1,000 seems like an exaggeration.
But he's been working on them since May. It's a lot.
Have there been 1,000 hours?
It's a lot.
In the year since May?
I don't know. But it's a lot.
I'm just going to say that seems like
it's a lot of labor. We'll say hundreds. So we asked him to pick a clip. So this is the clip that he picked.
There is, I think, a feeling that I had on my side of the conversation with Monique that we could never get to true trust for a long time, because there was something about me as a white person that there was just like this veil between us that she didn't really, we were friends, we were close friends, but there was some part of her that was holding back. And I think that when we really started to grapple with each other as sisters in the Lord and really walking into that place of family, then there could finally be that trust. And she wasn't completely sure that she could trust me. And something about me being white is that I'm starting to suspect that maybe that's common. That
it is.
That's a narrative.
It is. It is. And that's just not that's something we have to grapple with. The only people who can heal this nation is Black people. White people can't heal us. Only the gospel can heal our hearts and heal our wounds to where we no longer hold the burden of fighting for our own liberation, and you no longer carry the burden of guilt.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So there was a little clip, a little sample.
There was.
I don't cry in every episode.
Yeah. What episode was that from?
That was from episode 8. It was the one on reparations, I think.
Yeah.
It's toward the end.
Should white people repent for the sins of their ancestors?
Yeah,
That's the name of the title.
And so each video is about 15 minutes.
Yeah, and what you can expect in watching those videos is to really hear conversation on the participants or the panelists' thoughts about each chapter. And so we come in with questions. They aren't familiar with the questions that we're going to ask or discuss, but they give their real-time thoughts. And it's really interesting to hear so many different thoughts and how they've wrestled with the scriptures and how they've aligned, the book and the scripture together to see, like, is this really a way forward? And yeah, the discussions were really, I'd say, beautiful. Like they were very impactful.
So make a plan of how you want to share the book with others in your life, in your sphere. Maybe in the new year, start planning now. Think about what group you want to bring it to. Totally appropriate, I think, for a high school worldview class, Bible class. Definitely high schoolers can do it. An extended youth group series, small group series. Just be creative in bringing it to your leadership team if you work in a ministry context or on your church staff. So be thinking of how you want to share this content with others. Okay, now, as if that wasn't enough, the book, the discussion videos. Tonight we've got the mini doc.
We do. I'm excited about that.
So we're answering one of the most common questions that we get.
Yes. How did we meet? How did we start this?
We get it all the time. Then we always have to look at each other like, are we telling the long version, the short version?
Always the short version.
Yeah. What are we doing?
We don't need long conversations.
So how do we meet? How do we get into ministry together? Mm-hmm. So we're going to play the documentary right now. It's about 16 minutes.
Okay.
And so put your questions about our backstory on YouTube. We'll try to see them.
Facebook.
If they're on Facebook, we'll try to see them. Maybe the moderators can help us. But put your questions about our backstory there in the chat. And when we come back, we're going to talk to the filmmaker, Michael Lewis, and then answer your questions about our story.
Yeah.
And with that, here is the world premiere of our origins story.
World tour with a Mike and Mike. Here we go. My first memory of race being an important part of my life was during the LA riots of '92, the Rodney King riots. Seeing the King beating impacted me in regards to race. It just, the world wasn't safe, and the world was not safe because I bore brown skin. Now, I had learned about slavery, I had learned about Jim Crow, I had learned about the civil rights movement, but I thought that that time was behind us, not in 1992. Would I have thought, as a 12 or 13-year-old child that reality of the 60s or the 40s, 30s, that time was still with us?
I think my first experience of being aware of my race and having a conversation with somebody about race who was of a different ethnicity was probably when I was in graduate school. It was right after the O.J. Simpson verdict. I had made an acquaintance with a fellow student, and I expressed my confusion in the wake of the O.J. Simpson verdict, and just really didn't understand what was happening and why so many African Americans were excited about a verdict that to me seemed obviously unjust. And he really just came back at me and said, well, you just can't understand because you're white. That was the first moment where I felt like there was a topic that we really couldn't talk about in public.
So I go to Biola in 2001, and by this time, CRT, or critical race theory, is an actual, full-orbed framework. I had never heard the name critical race theory before, but I understood all of its tenets. Racism is everywhere, or that it's endemic into the fabric of America, that America's been racist from the beginning and that it'll always be racist. I wasn't needing to be convinced of critical race theory. It was something that I already understood. I was speaking up in Northern California at a church and telling them about the work that I was doing in South Africa. And someone actually shared what I was talking about on Facebook. And Krista saw this stream of me speaking. And so she put on Facebook, hey, I would like to have more conversations with you.
When Monique and I first started talking, we talked a lot on Zoom and on Facebook Messenger, and we would send each other little short videos of us responding to each other and that sort of a thing, because she was in Africa and I was here in Southern California.
I thought she was unique. I thought she was a bit quirky. I thought she was very serious. She really loved people and that she really loved God. Now, I also thought she was white. And so that also meant that she was probably Republican, voted for Trump, and had no idea about social justice.
Right away, she wanted to jump into very controversial topics. I remember very early on in our friendship, like we had probably known each other 10 minutes, and she wanted to know who I voted for in the last election and what my political alignments were.
But that's really a lot to have a conversation about when you're 10,000 miles away. So I came home in June of 2018, and she picked me up from the airport. We went to dinner, and everything was fine.
When we met that June the 3rd, the Lord just bonded us right from the beginning. Unfortunately, just a few days after meeting her face to face, she had to make an emergency transition off the mission field.
When it was determined, because of a few different causes, that I was not going to go back to South Africa, Krista and her husband gave me an invitation to move into their house for 3 months.
I went to my husband and asked him to pray and ask the Lord if there was anything that we might do to help her. And he came back a little while later and said, I think we should do what we can to help her, maybe offer her to live here for a month or 3 months, just while she's in the transition.
I was extremely hesitant, mainly because they were white. There was just things that I didn't think I would be able to get beyond, like Trump and being white. I mean, there was just a lot that I thought was wrapped up into being white, because there was surely a lot that comes with being Black. And I am and was all the way Black. Eventually, I was like, okay, this is only for 3 months and we can do it. It'll work. So I moved in for 3 months, and then 6 months came and went, and then a year came and went, and eventually it was 4 years and 11 months. And the Bontraegers, Krista and her husband Robert and their 2 girls, have really become family.
My kids loved her. We all loved her. We played games together. We went to church together through the pandemic. We really became a family.
What we learned about each other was that our differences helped enhance each other. We learned from each other. We were able to grow with each other, and there were differences.
We started going on a lot of walks together, and we would walk in the morning and the evening, and sometimes she would come meet me on my lunch hour, and we would take a quick walk during my lunch.
And in those walks, we would just talk about anything and everything. But I specifically like to talk about race and justice issues. Krista specifically liked to talk about theology. And that's where a lot of our struggles first ensued.
We definitely came into those conversations from 2 very different points of view. I made the assumption that because we were both graduates from Biola University and we had both taken 30 units of Bible, that we kind of saw the world the same way. What I didn't understand was how influenced Monique was by progressive ideas.
When we would talk about, what is race, or what is racism, we had 2 very different positions. She would say things like, I'm not even sure race is a category or something that is talked about in scripture. And I'm like, hello, I'm Black. Like, are you thinking that I don't have any kind of, context to scripture, or that scripture isn't for me as well? What is that actually saying? Or is that position simply because you're white? That didn't go so well.
Probably one of the worst fights that I remember, we were both sitting in my car in the driveway. And I remember just through my ugly crying and all the tears, telling her, in your mind, I am always going to be a racist, aren't I? It's never going to be enough for you because I'm always going to be white. And there's nothing I can do to stop being white.
What the conversation sparked in me, I do remember the feeling, is that you just don't see us. You just don't see Black people. You don't know our pain. You don't know our story. Where Krista was wanting a God-centered way of thinking about the world, I wanted a Black-centered way of thinking about the world. And I was always offering a very Black-centric way of viewing the scriptures, of having conversations. And she wanted to have a very God-centered way of viewing the scriptures and viewing the world.
I truly believed that the Lord had a plan. He had brought us together. And my job in that moment was to keep walking and to persevere.
We had a commitment to one another that no matter what happened, we were going to persevere, and we were not going to allow our tough conversations on race to demolish our friendship.
Some days, instead of having a fight, we said, let's not talk about race today. Let's go to the beach. Let's go make a happy memory together. And we really cherished those times. We couldn't make the friendship become so about race that there was nothing left of us. The friendship had to be bigger than the conversation. And I'm grateful for all of the fun memories we've made together, because we've had some shenanigans together.
Hey everyone! Hey! Oh my gosh, you're so taking my idea. I was gonna tell you, I thought we should do a video tonight. That's what I was gonna say.
So here we are. Here's the valley. Here's where we live.
Once she started seeing the real impact that some of these policies and procedures and the outcome of this framework had on real people that she loved and cared about, that really started changing her mind.
I love being Black. Let me just go ahead and put that out there right now. So in case anybody has any questions to my authenticity of my Blackness, let me let you know straight out. There is nothing better in my world than the melanin that I get to wear every day, except for being a Christian. And that's why I choose to speak out against critical race theory, because it brings divisiveness. We are more than that. We are more than oppressed and oppressors. Through the work of Christ on the cross, we are brothers and sisters if you are in Christ, if that is the framework that you choose to live your life from. How we treat humans is what needs to be defended, not how we treat Blacks and how we treat whites. How do we treat humanity? I do believe that there is something greater than being woke. And that is the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
The backlash that she got as a result of that video from her friends, some of her Black friends in particular who had known her for 2 decades, suddenly they stopped interacting with her.
That was the point I felt that I couldn't go back. I knew enough about the scripture and I knew enough about the ideology that I could see that they didn't mix, and that at some point I was going to have to make a choice. I was standing kind of at a fork in the road, and it was like, what lane are you going to choose? And so I made my choice, and I made the choice to walk that road, whether anybody came with me or not. In 2019, Krista and I were invited to a Women in Apologetics conference to speak about critical race theory. When we were done, we were met with many attendees who were telling us their story of encountering critical race theory. Now, they didn't have a name for it. They just realized that many of the tenets that we explained, they could see happening in real time in their jobs, at their schools. Hearing all of their stories, I decided to start the Center for Biblical Unity, and thought maybe, I can go and tell a couple pastors a year about this framework that is, wanting to make inroads into the church.
Monique was working off of a tiny table in her bedroom, and she and I had done a few videos earlier in the year related to race issues, but those views had 20 views, 30 views. We were not reaching the world with this message. But once George Floyd happened, I had many friends who worked in the space of apologetics reach out to me. How can I get connected to Monique? And once she did a few of those, then other people saw her, and the media requests just poured in. And somehow the Lord created a ministry in our bedroom while Monique was just renting a room from us and trying to rebuild her life after being on the mission field.
And people began to find us. They began to find me. They were watching our videos and our content. And that's where the Center for Biblical Unity was birthed. It was birthed out of a need for people really just wanting to understand what was happening. Critical race theory then became the topic culturally. We just existed to have Christ-centered conversations on race, justice, and unity. What does it mean to be a Christ follower in this cultural moment and have biblically centered conversations on race, justice, and unity? Because of Jesus, we have a hope. That is what the scriptures say. And it is a hope that is outside of ourselves. When we think of the current conversation on race, justice, and unity, there are many different thoughts being put forward. You can do this and this will, bring us to this utopia, and then we won't have racism anymore. I don't know about that. Like I said, I believe that sinners sin, and because sinners sin, racism will exist. I think the best hope for us as humans is to evangelize and to tell people about the hope that is available in Jesus, and then to disciple people and to help them understand the way that Christ calls us to, one, be family, and two, to how to interact with one another. They are transcultural principles.
So the hope that we have for change begins with the gospel, because only the gospel and the Holy Spirit can change hearts and minds. That was true in Monique's case. It's true in my case. It is true, I think, in every case. The Holy Spirit can change hearts and minds. That's where the hope of racial unity has to begin. All right, that was our origins story. We want to introduce you to the filmmaker, Mr. Michael Lewis. Welcome, Michael.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's good to have you. Thank you for joining us. What an awesome job that you did in putting our story together. We've received just a ton of awesome comments in our chat on YouTube here. People just saying, how well it was done. So we are so grateful.
Absolutely. It was an awesome project to work on. Not only getting to know you guys through the edit, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think it does such a good job at telling you guys a story.
Yeah, and I want to let people know a little bit about you and your work. Your production company is Turtle Moon Films, turtlemoonfilms.com. And people can go check out some of your other work. You're in the Texas, do you live in like Dallas area or Austin area? I forget.
I'm in Dallas.
Okay, yeah.
If he would have said I'm in Wyoming, I would have died.
No, you're not in Wyoming.
I would have died right here.
I knew he was in Texas. So we met you. You came to our office some time ago to film Monique for a different project, a documentary. And then you kind of recognized me because of another project you had worked on that involved some of my former coworkers at Reasons to Believe. You kind of recognized me. And so we kind of struck up, some conversation together and kept in touch. But I would love it if you could just share real briefly a little bit about your testimony, because you're an adult convert to the faith. And we really appreciated your point of view and the point of view that you bring to your filmmaking. So maybe you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I didn't grow up in a Christian home. I grew up in where my family, we would claim to believe in God, but never gave any real reason to believe in God, and never read the Bible, never talked about God. So naturally, I ended up becoming an atheist. And it wasn't until I got married to my current wife, it was about a year after we got married, that she came to me and told me she felt like Jesus was calling her back. And I remember all I had to do was just show her that it wasn't real. Well, fast forward 3 years into trying to prove to her that the evidence was, there was no evidence for God. I ended up seeing overwhelming evidence and reading apologetics books and really diving in and ultimately giving my life to Jesus. And now I've dedicated my life to sharing Jesus with the world. And I've been in the film industry for a while now. Believe it or not, I started out doing horror films. And so when I gave my life to Jesus, things drastically changed. I felt like I didn't need to pursue that. I needed to do something for the kingdom, and ended up dedicating all of my film production, or trying to dedicate all of my film production, to just anything I can to serve the kingdom. Right now, I'm working on a documentary on the evidence for God, and that's how we got connected, because I interview a lot of people from Reasons to Believe. And my goal is just to show people that Christianity is worth thinking about, to show them that the evidence really is overwhelming if you would just take the time to actually look at the evidence.
Very good. And I love the role that apologetics played in your conversion, and just starting to look into the faith and look into evidences.
I was wondering, just as I've looked at the film and the like different changes it's gone through and things like that, how did you, because you had a lot of footage and a lot of, pictures and things like that. How did you choose what to put in? Like, what went into that thought process?
My editing process is very time consuming. I will basically take each interview and watch them probably 100 times, and every time I watch it, I take something out and slowly start to pull out pieces that I know will build the story. And so once I start getting a cohesive story together, I start to pace it and make sure things make sense, and add B-roll and different visuals to try to bring the story together. It's definitely a time-consuming process, but I think it's definitely worth it. It turned out amazing. You guys had an amazing story already in there for me to work with, and so all I had to do is try to draw that out.
Well, you did a great job, and we just thank you so much for your work and your life and your ministry and your passion. We want to play your documentary that you're working on. It's still a work in progress, kind of a passion project that you've had, of a little bit about the story of apologetics and how that contributed to you coming to the faith. So we're gonna play that as we go out here. And anything else that you want to share about the process here in making our story? Anything else that maybe you want to share before we see the trailer for your other project?
Well, I just wanted to, you guys' story it is extremely powerful. I think that I learned a lot just by listening to you guys, the interview that you guys talked about your story and giving your testimonies. I learned a lot even just sorting through it. And I think you guys have such a powerful message for the world. And I just will continue to pray for you, and pray that you can help others out there that are confused, help others to realize we need to have these difficult conversations and to grow closer together, and ultimately bringing people to Jesus. And I just commend you guys for everything you're doing.
Wow, thank you so much. We are going to play your trailer, and
so tell us really quick the name of this project, and then
thank you.
Yeah, and then Bob will play it for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So this project, the title is Universe Designed. Basically, what I'm doing with the documentary is I'm attempting to build the case not only for the existence of God, but for Jesus being who he claimed to be, in an hour and 20-minute movie, which seems impossible. But my goal isn't necessarily to build the entire case. My goal is to pique people's interest and challenge them to go and investigate Christianity for themselves. Because I have conversations with non-believers all the time. And whenever I have conversations with people, most people have never really thought deeply about these questions, and have never even taken the time to look into Christianity for what it is. Instead, what they do is judge Christianity based on the interaction they have with other Christians. And so with this will be a resource for people that if you're out having that conversation with someone and you don't have maybe more than 5 minutes to share the gospel with them, or to try to plant that seed in their life, this is something that you can refer them to, so that they can, most people won't read, a lot of people won't read books, but some people may watch movies. And so if you refer them to this, and the film will hopefully challenge them to take a second look at Christianity.
Very good. And with that, here's the trailer for Universe Design, and then we're going to go right to hear from our friends at Birmingham Theological Seminary. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you, guys.
When you look at the expansion of the galaxies away from one another, you trace that back in time, and what you got is a singularity.
If you run time backwards, eventually you run into a boundary where space and time break down, the laws of physics cease, and there's a beginning.
And if time had a beginning, whatever created time must be timeless. In other words, something that's uncreated, something that's eternal, something we might call God.
The reason that we believe that God is true is because he's the best explanation for the way things are.
Everything is exactly right for life.
It forced me to ask the deep and difficult questions.
Who is this creator, and do I relate to that creator at all?
Has God made himself known?
I want to know, what kind of impact has Jesus had?
In order to see if the Creator is the Christian God, we have to see if Jesus rose from the dead.
And if Jesus rose from the dead, it's game, set, match.
If you want to know the worth of a seminary, go take a look at their graduates. Our graduates are all over the world. They're planting churches, they're revitalizing churches, they're translating the Bible, they're starting discipleship movements. It's heart-shaking, life-changing, and just mind-expanding of what God is doing.
You know, sometimes I really do have to pinch myself that what I get to do with the ministries at BTS, the engaging with the students and the impact that God uses us to have on the lives of our students, it's a pleasure, it's an honor, and it's a joy.
Jesus is still building his church. So we need to equip the pastor teachers who equip the saints. We need to equip the elders who shepherd the church. And I am grateful that Birmingham Theological Seminary is available to be a part of the expansion of the kingdom of God in these very crucial days.
Please check out Birmingham Theological Seminary. If you would like to further your theological education, you can go to bts.education to find out more information. They have small class sizes and affordable classes, very good education for people who are on the go or already in ministry, like us.
Okay, so first question. People want to know how we met Kevin.
We don't talk about Kevin. No. We don't talk about Bruno. Let me stop. Okay. How did we meet Kevin? Kevin showed up one day. Yes, Kevin Briggins, my co-host on Off Code, board member of the Center for Biblical Unity. Kevin showed up one day and refused to leave. Kevin was just like, hi, and literally just never left.
He just started showing up in the comments a lot, and we kept saying, like, who's this guy? Who's this Kevin Briggins guy? And then he just kept showing up, and then
eventually, didn't we have like a call?
Yeah, he was in a book club, and then he just kind of kept hanging around, and so we had a call with him and his wife, try to get to know him a little bit. That was when we were in the hallway office.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. That was like June of 2021. We were in the little hallway that we were calling an office.
We had literally, there was, during the pandemic, my old job at a food pantry, it had to shut down and only serve like outside. So the offices were closed to, traffic. And so what they did was they put up some partitions, like cubicle partitions, and made a little office for us. It was literally like a hallway. I could put my arms out and touch wall to partition, and my arms weren't even stretched out. But that's where we started. That was our first out of the house office.
Got you off the card table, out of the bedroom.
Yeah.
We had a little hallway.
Yep.
So,
yeah. It's precious.
So, the meeting Kevin is a little fuzzy for us. He just kind of was always there.
It's like I don't remember a time without Kevin.
I know, he was just hanging around, and we just got to know him little by little over time, and saw him a couple times in person, and just real friendly, personable guy. Had a lot in common ideologically, and So yeah, he's just become such a trusted dialogue partner.
Yeah.
And now board member. Okay.
Yes, I like his kids the most.
Oh.
His wife and his kids, they're my favorite.
Yeah, he spoke at camp with you for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Jeremy Webb says,
my gosh,
Jeremy Webb's another brother that's been hanging around, I feel like, since
I don't remember life without Jeremy either. Like, Jeremy showed up one day and now
he just never left.
Yeah, he's never, I love it.
So question for Monique, how do you think your life would have been different today if you hadn't embraced the critical social theories as a young adult? That's not where I thought that question was going. Okay.
Oh no, I saw it and I was like, oh, I don't know. Like you asked me a very similar question the other day. And I was like, I don't tend to think about that. And you were like, oh, I do. I tend to think about like, how would this be different if I wouldn't have? And I just tend to be like, well, this is what happened. So here we are. Gosh, if I wouldn't have embraced the critical social theories, I probably would have thought about my faith a lot differently.
I think you would have still ended up being a missionary, though.
No, I still would have worked with kids. I probably still would have done missionary work, but it just would have been different, I think, because I would have had a different view of my faith. I think I would have, even though I took my faith seriously, I think the thought of, let me just take this one Bible verse, and this one Bible verse I can build a whole, foundation or worldview on, or I don't know. I think I'm going to have to think about that one, Jeremy, because
okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right, here's Jeremy's question for me. How do you handle the criticism that you receive from other white people who think you're being racist by not embracing critical social justice? In 2020, I had a lot of anxiety about it. I remember losing some sleep and thinking, what if we're on the wrong side of history? What if we're on the wrong side of the conversation? Because we were really having a lot at stake publicly, and I was still working at my job at that time. And I thought, I don't talk about this part of my life when I'm at my job. I don't know if everyone's going to agree with me. I don't know how this is all going to go. And when we're out on the road, it only comes up occasionally when people are offended, but usually they're more offended by Monique. They really see her, white social justice leaning people tend to see her in a very negative way. I think they sort of expect the white person to be against social justice, but they're very confused by Monique. I remember one white woman came up to Monique at a women's conference after we had just finished giving a talk, and she was mad at Monique. She wasn't really mad at me, but she was big mad at Monique and talked to her for quite a while and chewed her out during the break. I don't know if you remember that.
That was my very first time in having to exercise every ounce of self-control. Because I think that's something too. Like if I wouldn't have embraced social justice ideology, I don't know that I would think that certain people can't talk to me certain ways. Like, one, my personality.
You were really trying to have forbearance with her.
Well,
yeah.
My personality is, you're not going to talk to me crazy, no way.
Yeah.
But I was especially clear that you wasn't going to talk to me crazy if you was white. Like, come on now. And so, yeah, I think that was a real challenge in, one, understanding, okay, she's a human, she's an image bearer, she's, not understanding the scriptures, she's, steeped in this ideology.
She was really trying to correct you.
How do I love her well?
Yeah,
or honor her,
yeah.
Well.
While she's trying to correct you.
While she's calling me a racist.
Yeah, more specifically.
Okay, here's Jeremy has another question. He says, question for both of us. In your view, why do you think so many prominent evangelicals were vulnerable to being hoodwinked and bamboozled by woke worldviews? Go ahead, you start, girl.
I don't know. I think that I think part of it, sadly, and I have asked some experts this question of, why do you think this caught us off guard? I've asked like professional apologists and philosophers with PhDs, and I'm like, why were we always talking about in apologetics, like the evidence for the existence of God or the problem of evil or the resurrection, but we were not talking about the critical social theories until all of a sudden we get gobsmacked by it in 2020. Like, why were none of the apologists warning us about this issue? And I've had some very prominent apologists, like academic level apologists, say, I don't know. I don't know how this slipped by us. I'm really not sure. I think that it wasn't being taught in our seminaries too much of how to push back. If anything, it had penetrated seminaries, even historically conservative seminaries, in kind of this outer edge way, and our language was starting to change. We hadn't really noticed it. And then when we got flooded with it, it was like, wait a minute, this has taken a turn that I was not expecting. And so then when we were just sort of at the edges with the terminology of using words like privilege and racial reconciliation and not really thinking about the implications of all of that, then all of a sudden people had to choose a side. I don't know.
Gather around, boys and girls. Let's have a little story time. So there's a couple of reasons. One, white guilt. Just flat out white guilt. A lot of evangelicalism in the evangelical church, there's a reason why we call it the white evangelical church, because it's a lot of white people. Nothing wrong with that, but there's a lot of guilt that also centers around that. We have focused in the evangelical church on the culture, on wanting to be relevant. We had the whole seeker sensitive movement.
Yeah.
How do I make sure that people like us? Well, I'm going to have to run the culture's route. And now, I'm not saying that these are all, deeply researched. I'm saying that these are my opinions as I have looked out over the horizon over the last 4 years. What else? Nobody wants to lose the tithe. Nobody wants to lose that money. And so if I don't have moral courage and a strong backbone, and I'm not willing to lose all for the sake of the gospel, there is a high possibility that I could be swayed when I see my number one giver going to another church that preaches a different ideology. Many people don't want to ruffle the feathers. Don't want to ruffle the feathers. That's for them over there to talk about. I'm just going to stick to the Bible. Well, that's great. Like, stick to the Bible, but we must understand that the scriptures actually do talk about race, justice, unity, all of these things that some people would say, well, that's too political, or that's culture, that's not for the church. And then people come in with these different worldviews into the church. You got people on side A and people on side B. They clash, they split. And now, people are like, who do I go? Where do I go to find out, what's right in regards to this? I also tend to, that one's probably.
All right, you think about it. All right, someone's asking at CFBU, is CFBU an umbrella for all the things? How is all the things different than CFBU? So that's a great question. The Center for Biblical Unity is kind of the umbrella organization. And then we have 4 different podcasts as part of the Center for Biblical Unity. So one of those is All the Things. And actually, All the Things existed for a year before the Center for Biblical Unity was even a thing. And Theology Mom, which is my podcast, is now under the Center for Biblical Unity, but originally it was the thing in existence prior to all of this. Is I have been doing a podcast for a number of years. And then we have the Off Code podcast, which is the podcast with Monique and Kevin. That's also part of the Center for Biblical Unity. And then we have the family meeting. It's kind of an occasional weekly news stories and events and a place where Monique and I try out new ideas and things that we're thinking about. Sometimes we talk about books that we're reading. So that's the family meeting. It's a very informal type of podcast. So
What people may not know about the Center for Biblical Unity, and I think that this is a great question, is that the Center for Biblical Unity is a whole ministry. It's not just like, the 4 podcasts, and podcasts are a lot of work. Like there's a lot that goes into podcasting. And so I'm not trying to say that it's just a podcast. I'm not saying that at all, but we do more than podcasting. And so we travel and speak in different places. We write blogs. We have an academic advisory council who helps to, make sure that what we're saying and what we're writing is in line. They also blog for us. We, in addition to speaking, we offer trainings to, staff at schools or at Christian institutions, in churches and ministries, making sure that people understand, hiring policies, or how do we write position statements so that we can have boundaries and guardrails when people want to come into our institutions. And then, as we're seeing, we write books. We have written Walking in Unity, and we are hoping to write more books in the future. And so CFBU is a full-orbed ministry. In addition to that, the Center for Biblical Unity is more than just me and Krista. The Center for Biblical Unity is Bob Bontrager. It's Abby Bontrager. It is April, our administrative assistant. It's Jameson, who does our donor relations things. It's Letitia, who helps us with social media. Danae, who's our accountant. There are many of us there. Krista and I definitely serve as the face of the Center for Biblical Unity. We are the outward working mechanism of the Center for Biblical Unity, but we could not be or do the Center for Biblical Unity without all of the people that I just named. And in addition to the people that I just named, there are way more volunteers, people who grind it out with us every day. We have people who pray for us, people who help and moderate for us, people who edit our content for us as volunteers. We are so thankful for our volunteer base, because we could not, even with all of the hands that I named by name, without our volunteer base, we would not be able to do what we do.
Yeah. I mean, even people like our board members, our academic advisory council, these are all people who work behind the scenes.
Moderators, graphic design, editors. Yes, they're prayer team. Yes, there are. If you would like to volunteer with the Center for Biblical Unity, you can go onto our website at centerforbiblicalunity.com and see if there's an area there where you are able to give a couple hours a week of your time. We're always looking for volunteers, and volunteers really help to push our ministry forward. For the first 2 years, we were a volunteer-only ministry.
Yeah. Okay, other questions that we get a lot at the ministry is...
I want to say something before we do that, though. Sorry. I was thinking, as I was talking about evangelicalism and why so many evangelical pastors, went wayward, I also want to say that a lot of it is also based in the grind of just not knowing, like the innocent grind of not knowing. A lot of pastors are bivocational, and as they are trying to faithfully lead their people, some things slip by. And so I don't want to be so condemning, so damning that it's like, oh, look at evangelicalism, they just messed up. No, I also want to make sure that we also remember that there are a lot of good pastors out there who were trying definitely to biblically lead their flock, and they have gone, a little skew. But then there were many pastors who we talked to who also steered and corrected. So okay, what were you going to say now?
Okay, other common questions that we get is, what was it that kept you together in your friendship? Why didn't you just part ways? Wouldn't that have been easier? What thoughts do you have about that?
I think that, one, we had a commitment early on that we weren't going to allow our arguments or hard conversations to completely obliterate our friendship, even though I am sure many people thought, I think this is going to be the one that obliterates the friendship. We just had that common understanding, like, no, we will get through this. Like, I might not be able to talk to you today, but we will get through this. And I think that was my position. I think that was your position. And so, yeah.
I think people find that hard to understand and believe, though, because that's not normal today. Like, it's just so easy to unfriend someone, stop talking to them, ghost them, rather than having the hard conversation. I think that it's just very unusual. And so it's a part of our story that a lot of people find confusing or perplexing.
Yeah, it is easy to give up on people. So, no, we didn't. We chose something different.
Another one of the questions that we're getting a little bit more lately, a little bit more frequency, is what are some of the ways that Krista grew in her conversations with Monique? Because so much of the attention in our story is on what changed with you. So we built that actually into our PR questions for the book, so that people could ask me, like, what did you learn? How did you grow?
'Cause I'm like the anomaly. You used to believe in social justice and you changed.
So I think that one of the more difficult parts of our story is the optics of it, of me being white, you being black, me trying to persuade you to understand aspects of a biblical worldview that you didn't understand. When seen through the lens of the world, there's definitely a narrative that could be colonizing. And I think that it's a challenging part of our story, and it's something we had to talk to the publisher brought up, and so we had to incorporate some very intentional parts of our story of, well, what are the things that Krista learned? What are the things that changed for me? I think one of the big changes, although I can't say that my worldview really went through as big of a shift as Monique's, I learned a lot more about history. I think that's one of the biggest changes for me. Having a deeper appreciation for nuances within Black culture.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you had some definite assumptions about Black people and Black culture.
Yeah.
And a lot of that also had to shift.
Yeah. And just learning about how to be more understanding and inviting and having a cross-cultural discussion. And
yeah, I think people can take it for granted when you've been in a mono-ethnic culture or a mono-ethnic community for a very long time, and that culture reflects your culture, that everyone is going to communicate the way you do.
Yeah.
That isn't true. I had to learn that too. My family culture, and even I feel like a lot of Black culture, I'm going to tell you what it is. It is what it is. Here, I'm going to tell you. That isn't the way that Krista communicated. And so I had to learn, and I still have to learn many times, like, oh, I'm not just speaking to someone who is from my culture. There's slang and, things that I say that don't always connect cross-culturally. And I think that was true for you in the beginning too, of
Definitely.
like, oh, there are things that just don't connect. Not a bad, not a racism, not a, anything like that. Just the opportunity for growth.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of saying it. And we don't want to give the impression that Monique was the only one who changed, but often that's just the focus because of the rather kind of paradigm shifting change that she went through. But that's not to say that I didn't experience.
Oh no, there were some paradigms.
My own having my own journey of learning and growing. And let's see, another question, and then we're gonna take another short break and then come back and wrap everything up. But I think another question we get a lot is, was Monique angry, or was she just trying to help you see the error in your way of thinking? Because there were to be fair, there were tough conversations on both sides. Like there were things that I didn't understand and you didn't understand, and we didn't understand about each other. And I made assumptions and you made assumptions, and it was a mess. It took a long time to untangle, but would you characterize your posture as being angry?
Sometimes.
And in your correction of me and wanting to help me see the errors of how I saw the world.
Yeah, I'd say sometimes I was like just frustrated, just like how many ways can I explain this one thing?
Whiteness,
systemic racism. Like how many ways can I make this any more clear? Especially like something like that saying that white people want Black people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, not understanding that Black people don't even have boots. And you would be like, what are you talking about? Who doesn't have boots? You have a closet full of shoes. Yeah, there were, oh my gosh. And so there were times when I wasn't angry, but I was frustrated and like, was just like, oh, I don't know how to make this any more clear. But then there were times when I was angry because it felt like you just openly would reject some of the things that I so fundamentally believe.
Yeah, it was hard times. There were a lot of hard days. And someone was asking on YouTube, you know, about the kind of some of the more supernatural components of our friendship. And there was definitely that. That's not something we talk a lot about in public. But there was definitely
Are we going to talk about it tonight? Because I need to get my heart ready.
No, we don't have to. But, you know, there was definitely...
There is a video on YouTube about
it. Where we share a little bit more about it. But there is definitely...
RAHR.
Yeah.
17. Ask the question.
Yeah. And there's definitely like a supernatural component to our friendship in that we felt like from the beginning God had some kind of plan for us. And we didn't really know what that plan was, but that he had some kind of a reason for bringing us together. And there was a very specific way that God worked behind the scenes that brought us together. And it really wasn't until 2020 or so that we started realizing, oh, here's the plan. But the first couple of years of our friendship, it was really tough sledding because we were having these difficult conversations. And yet we knew in the back of our minds, God has some reason that he brought us together. And that helped us persevere.
It did. We actually have a picture of just our arms. And it's up in your bedroom now, but so I don't know if we can actually get, okay, so we're like this, like, yeah, there you go. We're holding on like this. And that is what would remind us that we are to hold on to each other no matter what. We actually had a commitment that we would not continue in ministry if we thought that the friendship was being impacted so greatly by the ministry. Like, we don't want the ministry more than we want the friendship. Like, we really want the friendship. We are willing to walk a road with each other. And so we have to make sure that God is first and that neither of us are putting anything above God. But we also don't want to be those people who talk about unity and friendship and family, you know, all in front of the screen. And then off the screen, we hate each other. We can't, you know, I don't want to talk to you. Leave me alone. Like, that's just fake and phony. And don't nobody have time for that. Like, that is not who we are, who we want to be. And we definitely don't want to dishonor God and, you know, having, so you, girl, your hands is in my shot.
Oh, sorry.
Or
I was trying to read the comments. Sorry about that.
Pull your computer closer. We don't want to dishonor God in that way. And so that's us. And so, you know, if you ever see us outside, know that we are just regular people. Do we fuss and fight at each other? Yes. Still. There are times when she worked my whole nerve, y'all. My whole nerve. Like, you ever have, like your mama say, you on my last nerve? She will find that last nerve and like tap dance on it. Just clack, 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 clack. Yes. But she's my sister. And that's who we are.
I think that.
Did I ever tap dance on your last nerve? Tell the truth, shame the devil. Don't be giving people that look. The blink once if you understand what I'm saying. Look.
we're very, very human. We're both very opinionated. We're both very strong-willed. And so, we still have conflicts. Now we have to run this big ministry together. And I think the challenge is that we have to stay in it together. And sometimes there's things that we don't agree on. And so we have to wait for each other and pray for each other. And one of us can't move forward without the other one, because God has, in his supernatural will, put us together for at least this season.
What you mean at least this season?
Well, we don't know how long this wave is going to last. I mean, the first year I didn't know, is this a ministry or is this a viral video? I don't even know what this is. But, I think...
You know what? Never mind. Never mind.
I think that it's... There's definitely things that, we have to be intentional about growing with the Lord, but even though we're growing as individuals, trying to go in the same direction together. And
this is like, go ahead, sorry.
But that is how it's been for our whole friendship, is we're on our own individual journey, but we're trying to go in the same direction together, generally speaking. And that's not always easy.
It's not. And it's not easy to know that you have a, host of others who are also watching.
That's, to me, one of the more difficult parts of it, is that it's not just being friends. It's that now the world is watching
and then
what we're doing.
We having a fight, and now we got to go be on an interview.
Yeah.
10 minutes. Oh, it's so good to be with you.
Let's talk about unity.
Yeah. Father. Yeah. No, but this is the thing. We always want to be real. Like, we never, and I will say, I don't want to speak for her. I never want to put something out there that is just fake or like, we really don't like each other. And yet, for the sake of this ministry, but bye. It's going to have to go. It's going to have to go.
So, all right. Well, we pretty much,
one last question?
We pretty much answered everything that we had down in our notes. I think that I feel like we went as far as we could go with
Elaine
this.
said it's like family driving to church in a huff.
Yes, it's exactly like that. Yeah. Why do you always have like the worst family fights while you're getting around in the morning for church?
This is why, see, I'm single, honey. When I drive to church, it'd be a blissful time. I'll be having my worship music on and stuff.
Oh, gosh.
I don't be in a huff when I get to church. It'd be glorious.
Glorious, yes.
All right, hand me that, please.
Oh, this one?
I just wanted to show you guys. We got Walking in Unity fans as part of our book launch. And so the endorsers... It's
kind of like a church fan like this.
Yeah, but it's just smaller and it's so cute. I just wanted to share it with everyone. And with that, I think that
who gets these?
Huh?
Who gets these? You have to tell them who gets these. We're not selling them in the store.
I don't know who gets them. Did we talk about it?
No, they're for our... the influencers. The publisher sent boxes to influencers, and these were custom made for influencers.
We do have some coming. There were some extras, and I'm thinking that this could be a great Giving Tuesday perk.
Oh.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
Giving Tuesday is coming up. I was going to talk about this the next time I'm here. But Giving Tuesday is coming up the first Tuesday after Thanksgiving. And the Center for Biblical Unity for the last 4 years has participated in Giving Tuesday. It's our biggest giving day, like collective giving day of the year. And it's a great time for people to come and help support us for that next coming year. We will be talking about Giving Tuesday in the coming weeks. But I would like, even now, for you to consider, if you can, partner with the Center for Biblical Unity on Giving Tuesday or at any point before then. We are looking to raise money, and I will tell you all of the projects that we're looking to do in 25. But if I'm honest, our giving has been down this year. There have been things like Bidenomics and all of that have taken place. The Center for Biblical Unity is not in danger of closing. But as the president of the Center for Biblical Unity, one of my roles is to fundraise. And so I am asking if you have been blessed by all the things, Off Code, Theology Mom, the family meeting, having us come out and speak, or meeting us at the Unshaken Conference, would you please consider giving to the Center for Biblical Unity? We could definitely use your support. You can give directly at the Center for Biblical. Yeah, it is. Not the. Sorry, let me start that again. centerforbiblical.unity.com. It's right there on your screen. Click the donate button and you'll be able to give directly to the Center for Biblical Unity. All funds go right to our ministry and go to pay for our staff and our team and allow us to do ministry day in and day out. We are so, so grateful. So thank you very much.
Yes. And with that, next week, you do not want to miss it. We're going to have a live show. It's going to be myself and guest co-host Kevin Briggins, because Monique's family is coming to town, so she won't be here next week.
My mom is turning 70.
Wow.
I can't believe it.
So you're going to go celebrate
yes.
with Pauline. And so Kevin's going to be here, and we're going to have a very special guest you are not going to want to miss, and that is Delano Squires from the Heritage, what is the Heritage Foundation?
Mm-hmm.
And he has been on the Off Code podcast before. He is one of my favorite Twitter personalities, and he's going to be talking about the importance of family and even the Black family as a source of renewal. He just has a wealth of information.
I am so jealous.
And statistics, and he is an amazing resource. We can't wait to introduce you to him. And he's a guy that we've been trying to get on the show for a couple of years, and we finally are making it happen next week. So you do not want to miss our conversation with Delano Squires. If you're on Twitter, go follow him. But he is a wealth of information, and he's a contributor to our friend Katie Faust's new book that she edited. He has a chapter in the book. The book is called Pro-Child Politics, and he did a chapter in there. So we're going to have
race and family.
Yeah. So we're going to have him come on, talk about things. You won't want to miss it. So we will see you next week. Monique will be back with me in 2 weeks.
If it wasn't my mama's birthday, y'all, I would not be allowing Kevin to take my place talking to Delano Squires. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching our origin story with us. Thank you so much for just traveling this road with us. We are definitely aware that so many of you have been with us from the beginning, and that you have other things that you might be able to do on a Saturday night. So we thank you that you sit and you hang out with us. We are so, so grateful. Please share this show with your friends. Share it on your social media feeds. Share it with an enemy, because yes, we can all be petty. And with that, we will talk to you later. Bye.